Why is Hex better than Bitcoin? Well, first of all, it's the fundamentals of the code. The fundamentals of the code are better than Bitcoin's fundamentals. The inflation model is better than Bitcoin's inflation model. The staking feature is better than a mining feature. It's new tech versus old tech. It's decentralized versus centralized. Yes, all of those things. Well, hello, Hexicans, crypto pirates, cypherpunks, all you cryptopians out there. How's it going? Good to see you all on a Wednesday afternoon. Let's make sure everything's working here first. I'm just a little out of sorts being here in the middle of the afternoon, pulling a stream. Usually it's getting at night. What's happening? Look at there. David Morales in the chat. I object, Your Honor. Yes. Hey, you going to be there, David? You going to be in New York? My good friend, David Morales, OG Hexican, one of the best party animals in the Hexican community. If you ever get a chance to get down there to Miami way, look up David. He'll show you a good time. All right. So everybody, the court case for Richard Hart versus the SEC, or SEC versus Richard Hart, I think that's the way it's supposed to be said, is coming up at the end of the month. They've changed the date from the 23rd, 24th, I think it was 24th, to now it is the 31st. So they moved it to Halloween Day, Halloween Eve. Maybe because they found out that there was a whole bunch of us coming. I don't know. Just speculating. But they have changed the date. So for those of you who are going or planning to go and you don't know that the date has changed, the date has changed. So you will be needing to adjust. If you haven't set up yet, or you do want to go, you can go to pulsechaintour.com and it tells you all the details, where we're all staying. We even got a little VIP and a speaking event afterwards that's going to happen. So I think SJ's got it all put here in the description. Yeah. So Robert, you want a carpool? Yeah, people can get carpools going. The more the merrier. They know we're coming. They're setting up for us to come. We did have over 200 RSVPs. Don't know exactly how many people will show up. Probably a lot less than that. But we're going to play a little video here. One of the Hexicans, Marco the Hexican, that went there for the first public hearing where we could all go. He was really the only one that was there, and he had some pretty interesting observations that we'll talk about here. But so this is community effort. Everything that we've done here has been community effort, which I'm very proud of. Everything that we've done on our own. Richard's never helped us, financed us, egged us on. He's educated us into blockchain. He's educated us into the products that he's built or was going to build for the community, or for crypto in general. And we've all run from there. Building businesses, making other cryptos on top of his products, making movies, YouTube channels, you name it. The Hexican community has come to the plate, and we've delivered. So we're going to deliver again. We're going to go support Richard, be there in DC. I know there's a lot of people that have made plans. Make sure you've changed your date to the right date, which will be the 31st. And then our event will be after that. Yes, looking for a good showing. Now, because we are, like I say, community driven, we have people in the community from all walks of life. And this next gentleman, Nuclear Herbs is his name on Twitter. If you want to go follow him there, we'll make sure that his information is also in the description so you can follow him. He is basically our Hexican legalese guy. He obviously comes from the world of litigation, lawyers and whatnot. And I won't dox his occupation, whatever. I'm not sure how much he's actually told people about that or whatnot, but he really understands the legalese of things, has helped a lot of us through Twitter understand what some of this docket stuff that had been coming out meant, and defined it for us. So he's been kind of like our local legal expert as we look at this case. Because, Richard's lawyers and Richard himself, they aren't really saying too much about it, as much as they can. But we've been kind of deciphering through the docket. So this gentleman here, Nuclear Herbs, who's a member, is going to sit with me, and we're gonna chop this thing up. So everybody, Nuke, what's happening?
How are you, RG? Good to see you, Captain.
Good to see you, man. Your horn's looking awful polished and golden today.
Yeah, it's been. I've had a lot of time to sit around and work on it because it's I've been sitting basically in my house for the last few months recovering from shit.
Is that a is that a mask? Is that you wearing a mask, or is that just a photo of something?
No, that was me wearing something a long time ago. Like I found that stupid thing like Target, like I don't know, 10, 15 years ago or whatever, and I took a picture of it and sent it to my wife. My wife's like, "You need to use that as your avatar," and I'm like, "All right." So yeah, I had that on there up until like this year.
Yep, Vitalik would be proud. Vitalik would be proud. So we'll let me just let everybody know how this is. So everybody in the chat room, I'm going to kind of keep an eye on things. SJ will alert me also as to any questions that you guys may have, and we'll bring those up and talk about them. But for now, I'll just kind of get things started. We'll start talking a little bit about what's happening, and then we'll answer questions and whatnot. So let me start out first by digging into you and who you are, and why you're even here. So obviously you're part of the community, and you've leaned into the legalese of things and have helped us to kind of understand what's going on. Would you most people in crypto are anti-government, anti-establishment. You're a lawyer, so that means that tells me that you don't necessarily believe that way, but you fit in somehow. What is your how do you sit on the fence in this thing?
I'll tell you, I'm probably the most small L libertarian out there that's ever practiced law. I don't typically get along with a lot of the the trial lawyers and whatever that donate tons of freaking money to to various political causes and whatever. Not a big fan of that stuff. I don't really like, I don't like to delve into it. I don't like to hang out with those people. I have some friends that, that I've met over the years, and, they're good enough people, but, we differ politically. And sometimes, at least in the last 10 years or so, that's got to be more of a problem. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really, I mean, you and I are of a certain age, and I remember, politics and having, difference of opinion with people. And I even remember watching, issues being, litigated on the House floor, and, heated debates, but always concession and move on to the next fight versus the mudslinging and the berating and one side when you've got people calling each other these horrendous stereotypes of what their political party is. It's like, I know a lot of good Republicans. I know a lot of good Democrats, and I know a lot of good libertarians. And then when I hear people speaking about these parties in general and the people in general, it's like, oh, they want to take all of your rights, and they want to do this and they want to do that. And it's like, whoa, wait a second. What happened to the middle ground and everybody kind of like trying to figure out what give and take we have? I don't see that anymore. It's just this demonization of each other and this extremism of each other. And, like you, I'm a small I independent,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Everybody's kind of like, it's trench warfare at this point, right? I mean, nobody's, everybody's so entrenched in their positions that they can't even see the battlefield from the other side. So it's just a weird situation that we've gotten ourselves into in, the last 10, 15 years. And it didn't really exist like this, back in the late 90s or so, and especially not in the 80s, where you could have a discourse with people, and they may not like what you had to say, but you didn't wind up calling them Hitler 2-3 times every minute. It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, but what's now? It's like Marxist, fascist, Hitler. It's like I've seen liberals call conservatives Hitler, and I've seen conservatives call liberals Hitler. It's like,
It doesn't even mean
now
anything
it's gotten
anymore.
ridiculous, you know.
It really doesn't mean anything at this point. It's just noise.
It is, and you know, the doomsdaying of everything too is we've seen the world go through a lot of different changes and morphs and whatnot, and now everybody seems to think that we're on its last leg. That the sky is falling, and I just don't see it that way.
I'm not old enough to remember the Cuban Missile Crisis, thank God. But like, I'm Gen X. I got to remember like when Reagan almost got us all killed with I just started bombing Moscow 5 minutes ago or whatever the hell that line was.
Yeah.
I was in like grade school or something.
The bombing starts in 5 minutes.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. It just seems like every generation has their like World War III is gonna happen tomorrow type moment or whatever. But,
yeah, no, I mean, nobody wants that. Nobody on the planet wants that. Not even the crazies want that. It's. I mean, let's face it. We were the only country to ever, use those things, and after that, everybody else was like, "Oh no, fuck that. We don't want to. We don't want to be either responsible or on the other end of that." And now that things have gotten 1,000 times more powerful than those two bombs that we dropped.
Oh God, then,
yeah. Everybody's like, this would be ugly if something does go down. But and so that brings me to this. So this world is in this crazy place, especially with this election. With the election going on and the sides being so divided. We've got this narrative out there that's just doom and gloom, and they're gonna kill you and eat you, and and put you in jail, and all of the concentration camps, and right now. So everything's we know is really kind of up in the air, strange. And then and after the election, maybe we'll start to see things kind of calm down a little bit. But I mean, when it comes down to it, we have to have law and order. We have to have governments. I don't know if you agree with that. Some people, don't. I mean, and I mean government, small g government. But
I think you're not wrong. But we need it on a much smaller scale. We don't need a federal government to do everything for us. So.
Yeah, and and a lot of these things were put into place for protections. And I understand protections, and even with the SEC, I understand that, their job is to make sure that, securities aren't harming people, that the right people have access to them and all that kind of stuff. Whether or not that's right or not, I don't, agree myself on that. I think everybody should have access to investment tools.
I'm completely against the accreditor investor rule for many reasons. So.
Yeah, me too. I think that in California, there's a movement out here in California to get rid of the accredited investor. I don't know if you knew about that, but it picks up legs, and then election years coming, and it dies out and gets quiet. And our liberal governor was even behind it, so that was interesting to me the last time they were talking about it. But then, of course, the elections started getting closer, so that's one of those issues that just gets put on the back burner. Nobody talks about during election years and stuff. So just like crypto, I'm surprised crypto got as much play as it has over this election season. Because remember last election season, it was like dead silent. Like nobody was talking about crypto, period.
Yeah, but there's money in crypto now.
There is. Well,
there's
BlackRock crypto. Yeah. Let's just call there's BlackRock.
Yeah, okay, that's also fair. But there's, there's people who've been doing good work and are, financing campaigns with crypto now that didn't have that ability, a couple of years ago. Plus, we didn't have as an aggressive enforcement by the SEC back, prior to 2020. So, there wasn't as good of a reason to make crypto a campaign issue as there is right now. I mean,
until FTX happened.
Yeah.
As soon as FTX happened, that opened up the floodgates. And I mean, it's just my opinion, that was to kind of CYA, because FTX was, I mean, that should be like, we don't hear them talking about, like, XRP case is being talked about more than I haven't heard anything on the FTX case in months. Like, nobody has said anything for months. And
yeah,
because everybody had their hand in the cookie jar.
I don't really consider that crypto as much as I consider that a business that made a bad investment.
Well, I mean, it's centered in the crypto space. I mean,
agreed. Right.
The players that caused it, exposed it, they're all the big players. I mean, CZ was involved. Sam and all of his crew were involved. I mean, yeah, it's not crypto like we understand crypto. It is, like you said, the business of crypto, and outside. Right. It's not, they weren't really programming anything innovative. They just had an exchange and were making a money grab and making a fake token to, to pull off that money grab. But when it comes down to it, they were the big players, and that should be the big news. Like, bringing them down, exposing all of it, it should be big news. But of course, because of the donations, none of the parties want to touch that right now or be exposed for that right now, because it could mean, it could mean problems for one side or the other, as far as exposing them to things that they may have nefariously been involved in,
Yep.
So that's probably why. But anyway, this case that's coming up with Richard, they did move it. Could you maybe explain a little bit about what happened there, how that got moved, and so I'd have a better understanding of why that date changed? Was it just a technicality, something simple that usually happens, or did somebody go in and try and switch that?
Well, there was nothing filed by either side requesting a date change. So my guess, just based on having seen stuff like this before, is that it was just a conflict with the court. They could have something, a trial be running long, or, maybe some criminal issue that needs to be resolved faster and it needs to be put on the calendar. Because, there's no speedy trial issues. There's no speedy trial with civil cases, but there is with criminal. So criminal trials always, or criminal matters, period, whether it's a trial or hearing or whatever, they always bump civil matters. So my guess is it's not nefarious by either side. It just happened. Just one of those things.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay. Well, that makes sense then. Technical thing with the courts. The court did it. It wasn't a request on either side to
yeah, we would have seen that in a letter or motion or something to the court, and we didn't see that get filed. So that's why I don't think it was either of the parties.
Okay. So this the docket, I lost for some reason. I had access to the docket. Now I can't get in there and access the docket. Do you know if they did something, or if there's a reason why you can't get into the docket anymore?
Are you talking about on CourtListener or on Pacer?
Yeah, CourtListener.
No, I didn't know that. I primarily use Pacer, so I didn't.
Maybe you could drop me the link to that, because I usually try and keep up on it and just kind of read and get the alerts when something does get added to the docket. But I've been getting alerts, but I'm not able to access the docket anymore, so I don't know what.
Oh, happened. Weird. Yeah, I'll take a look at that. Because Pacer costs money and it's just used by attorneys, and if you make the wrong search, it charges you 10 cents a page for anything. So if you put in a too broad of a search, you wind up owing Pacer like $300 next month. That sucks.
Yeah, man, that's the last thing I need to have access to.
Yeah, so it's not super fun, and it's not really user friendly. I think the thing was built it looks like it was built back in the late '90s, and nobody's updated the front end since then. So
when it comes to government stuff, man,
exactly,
and phone companies, they got the. If you don't know, like AT&T was AT&T, which was the Pac Bells, then went back to AT&T. That was the first real database ever created, was the AT&T phone system. All the phone numbers, everything, and it was literally, the green screen with the black, the square prompt flashing.
Love it.
It's called BOSS, and literally they still use it to this day. They still use that because they're afraid to migrate over to some type of a CRM or whatever for fear of losing that data. That system is so, just solid. Like you can't, screw the data up. But they're afraid to move it into something else because they don't want to lose the data. They don't want to lose the data. So you still have to go in and log into this old DOS prompt freaking, system to go look at people's phone numbers and information and stuff. It's kind of crazy.
Reminds me a little bit of my college days, or like back in the late 80s, early 90s. Like we used to write stuff in DBase 3+, and like they didn't have front ends, so like you just, if you wanted somebody to enter something, you had to like figure out how to draw the prompt on the screen for somebody to enter data. But like we were running like 386s back then. It took, if you had 20,000 fields or something like that, it would take like you just put it on and go overnight, and come back in the morning, and it finally still have the thing indexed. It's crazy.
Oh man, it's funny. And then now you're sitting here loading something, and it takes a minute, and you're like, "Come on, damn it!" Come on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, well, good. At least I'll find out if I have access to it later, or I'll check with you.
Yeah, shoot me something if you can, and I'll try to help you figure it out.
Okay. So, what's the latest that's been added other than the date change? Has there been anything, or has it been kind of quiet since the date change?
I haven't really seen anything. I think it's been quiet since then. There's nothing else that needs to be added prior to the hearing. So court has everything it's going to use in its file already to make a decision. Now it's just up to, whether or not the attorneys can explain things to the court's satisfaction or change the mind, or, everybody comes in with some sort of preconceived notion. And sometimes, attorneys do a really good job of changing that. And sometimes they do a really good job of reinforcing it, so we'll see. We'll learn a lot, I think, from the questions that the judge asks.
Okay. So that's going to be the tell, is which direction the judge goes.
Yeah, I think like typically, like, if a judge is prepared, like, and I'm sure she will be, you typically don't let the sides blather on with an opening statement for 5-10 minutes talking about whatever they wrote already. Do you remember? Did you catch any of the Trump appellate hearing? I don't know if you saw any of the clips on that thing. I didn't see the whole thing, but I saw some clips. Basically, the counsel for the government got up there and started like half a sentence in, and the appellate judges are like, "Yeah, we want to talk about this instead." Like, that's kind of the way a lot of judges have these hearings, because they just don't want to waste time. They already know what you wrote. Now they want to know what you think.
Mm-hmm. So it's like, get to the point. You've already done all that, so let's get to the point.
Yep.
So this judge, have you done any research? Do you know this judge? Do you understand this judge's history or anything?
Not that much. I know that she's done the only one crypto case I know that she's been involved in was it was SEC versus Plex Court, and that was, this is one of the reasons why the SEC kept referencing it in their briefing, is because they want her. The issue in that case was personal jurisdiction over the defendant, much the same as it is here. But what the defendant did in that case was so completely different than anything Richard's done that it's really not. I mean, it almost highlights the differences more than it highlights the similarities. And I'm not sure, maybe it's the best thing they had to go with, but I'm not sure it's going to do them any favors. The guy was in the United States doing business. He was using US dollars. He was transacting through US bank system, using, credit cards to take money for people's, the coins that he was promising. It's real clear. The minute you start using USD, you're in US jurisdiction. That's just kind of the way the world works. And Richard was very, very smart to avoid anything like that. I mean, everything was Ethereum or, Bitcoin or everything else, anything other than USD, where it didn't go through a bank. It didn't go through a Visa system. It didn't go through, US payment processors of any kind. I mean, this is just straight up, crypto address to crypto address. I think that was
all on the blockchain, all monitored on the blockchain too.
Very smart on his part.
Yeah. So interesting. You mentioned that case when now I'm no legal expert by far. Am I anything legal, any type of legal expert, other than being involved in cases myself and things that I've been, around through my life. When I saw what they were doing, at first, my initial reaction as a Hexican, as a person who supports Richard and helps, build the community around, the systems that he's built. I started, my first reaction was, this is bullshit. This is, what are they trying to pull here? Because they had come after me too. And I saw how egregious their claims were there. The fact that they've put this thing together like they have, to me, at first, like I said, I was very, whatever. This is just bullshit. And then I started to read it and said, well, I better get to know what's going on. So I started to read the document, started to read what was going down. And the more and more I read into it, the more and more it validated my feelings that, wow, this is really kind of BS. Like, did they not do any basic research? And the fact, like you said, that they're stating other instances of other cases that really not only don't they fit the narrative that they're trying to present, but actually work in Richard's favor. Like, the whole docket is full of that, from date issues, timing issues, accusations that can be shown on the blockchain to not be real or not be valid. So, I mean, what is your opinion the same? Do you see this thing as kind of, and I'm not taking anything away from, the fact that the SEC is bringing suit and that it's serious and all this kind of stuff, but it really just looked very amateurish to me when it comes to cases that I've seen before.
Yeah, they have a template, and it seems to have worked with other cases because they've been able to, force settlements in a number of other cases. So they just
because 99% of the time they are dealing with a scam. They are.
They're either dealing with a scam, and that person really can't defend their actions, or they're dealing with a company that doesn't have the money to fight them. Those are the typical defendants in SEC cases, right? Like, they're not, they went after Ripple and they got a fight that they didn't expect, and they lost a good chunk of that case. They went after, they're going after Coinbase. Coinbase isn't taking it sitting down. They're going after, some other companies that are now suing them as well. We'll see what happens with that. I'm not sure that they're going to be successful in that. Not because I don't think that they'll eventually get their point across. I just don't think that they're well set up at this particular juncture. We need Congress to do something rather than trying to have the courts tell the SEC what it can and can't do, because it really doesn't have the ability to tell the SEC what it can and can't do. So, I do agree with you. They have a template. It seems to work. Why change something that continues to work? So we're just going to change the date on it, change the name of the defendant, and just, change a few of the facts in the thing. And then we're going to go with that and see if we can get who knows, maybe the guy will settle right away, and then it's another scalp on the SEC's wall. Yeah. But it didn't, I've said it like a lot here. Like, they picked the wrong door. Like, they didn't really expect Richard Hart. They didn't expect Quinn Emanuel. They didn't expect a whole bunch of pushback. And, and I think they're going to get more than they bargained for out of this case.
Oh yeah, they had to have swallowed their gum when they saw Murderers Row get lined up as far as Richard Hart. I mean, that was like, as I started doing the research on who all of these people were, I was like, holy shit, the SEC's got to be going, wait a minute, where'd this shit come from? How did all these people get put together on this case? Yeah, they're the all-star team that the SEC does not want to go up against. They especially in a case like this. I was almost tempted to go, okay, well, I want to dig into like who the SEC representatives are that are going to have to stand in front of this judge and this legal team.
You know who Liftick is, right? Michael Liftick, who was part of the SEC and then went over to Quinn Emanuel. he just testified in Congress at the crypto hearing, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, something like that. I mean, this is not a unknown dude. Like, I mean, he's well thought of in the legal community. So, having that guy sitting next to me rather than on the other side of me is something I'd want.
Yeah, I mean, I'm almost thinking like, okay, are they trying to get some people fired at the SEC, and like who's on this case? Like, let me find out who's on this case, because like you said, it's like, so murderers row for the legal team. Richard Hart, who's like left no stone unturned, has done a lot of intelligent moves to make sure that he's CYA'd. A whole community that put a freaking amicus brief out that's 50,000 signatures on it. I mean, they've got 200 people coming to the courthouse. I mean, it's just like one thing after another after another. Like, are they not seeing everything that's about to happen, or are they are they throwing somebody to the lion's den to let them get eaten up? Or
well, I'm not sure that they care right now. I mean, it's not, the SEC lawyers don't get paid extra if they win this case, right? No, they don't lose their jobs if they lose this case, so I don't really think that they have any kind of vested interest other than going out and filing lawsuits against whoever the SEC commissioner said to go file a lawsuit against. And this, they picked Richard's name out of a hat, and there we go. And that's where we are right now. I don't think they give a shit one way or the other. Even if they win, I don't think they care one way or another. It doesn't mean anything to them long term.
Yeah.
It's just it's a scalp if they win, and it's who cares? We lost. It doesn't really matter. We'll just move on to the next one.
Yeah. Like you said, as long as they have the scalp on the wall, that's really what they want. Like, whether they convict Richard of anything, or they get him to sign off on a fine or whatever, it's still a win for them, and check mark is all they're looking for.
Yeah, and people need to remember, like, you can look at the facts of the complaint like I did and just go, wow, this is such bullshit. Like, none of this actually happened, or all of this stuff is wrong, or Pulse X clearly doesn't live on Ethereum, you morons. All this stuff that's wrong in there. But at the motion to dismiss stage, the SEC or whoever the plaintiff is at the time gets the benefit of the doubt that all these facts that they put in there, if they could be proven true, they get to move forward. So it doesn't really matter if they're true or not at this point. Like, they could be completely freaking made up at this point. And the judge has to, like, by rule, they have to accept that and just go, they can look at it really weird and go, I'm not sure how you're gonna be able to prove this, but I got to take what you're saying is true for the purposes of this particular motion. So that's why the main reason why most motion to dismisses get denied. But this one just happens to have a little sizzle to it that others don't. And that one issue is the jurisdictional issue over Richard. Because I don't think that the SEC did a particularly good job of hammering out or laying out the facts that would allow them to exert jurisdiction over Richard himself. And I think that was a mistake on their part. And I think it was arrogance, and they just overlooked it, because they could have easily put in things that buttoned it up, and they didn't. I can think of things right now I'm not going to share with anybody, but I can think of things right now that they absolutely could have put in there that would have buttoned it up and essentially nailed it for them. And they just either just decided that they didn't need it, or they just said, fuck it, and didn't care.
Well, again, just showing nothing has been, top shelf on any of the case that they've brought so far. So why would
no, this isn't their finest work for sure.
And so now the criminal case that could come out of this, how does that work? Do they have to have a win here in order to go after him criminally, or can they go after him criminally, win or lose?
Well, they could, but I am pretty confident that ship has sailed. The reason why I say that is if the SEC and DOJ are working together, and if you read anything from Mark Fagel, who's former SEC guy, he's talked about this a number of times. The SEC and DOJ typically coordinate before filings, and the DOJ would have access to say, you're bringing a civil fraud claim, SEC. Let me take a look and see if I can make a criminal fraud claim stand up. And the reason why I think they passed on this one is because, like I said before, criminal actions have speedy trial issues. So you get through a criminal case way faster than you do in a civil case. Like this case would probably be over if they brought a criminal case. And it's super, super difficult to beat a civil case if you've already been convicted of the exact same thing in a criminal matter. So you don't want to go civil first, criminal second, ever. You want to go criminal first, and you still like in OJ's case, right? If you lose the criminal case, you still can win the civil case. But if you lose the civil case, what are your odds of ever bringing a successful criminal case after that, right? If you couldn't make it if you couldn't make it by preponderance of the evidence, how the hell are you going to get to reasonable doubt, right? So I just think it's such a low percentage chance that he ever gets charged unless something new comes out that none of us know about. But what's the fraud? Like here, I'm going to deliver you a blockchain that works. And he delivers a blockchain that works. Like this, that's not fraud, dude. That's fraud is
or crypto that works. Crypto that works, and
right.
basically a fair launch. You buy it, if you want it,
Fraud is false statements and then doing something that that's false. There's nothing that Richard did that was false, which I could see why if they brought it to the DOJ, they were like, yeah, the guy did what he said he was going to do. That ain't fraud, bro. So we got to move on.
Yeah. So we've both sat here and banged on how weak the SEC's case is. And, Richard is sitting over there with like one of the highest paid teams in this type of a case. He's got murderers row sitting there to defend against something probably someone lesser could handle. Like you said, there's members of this team that are, testifying in front of Congress, and they're not unknown people. These people are well known. Some of them even came from the SEC, is what I think is the case.
Yep, that's a couple of them. Yeah, a couple of them.
So there's got to be a bigger plan here. And when I look at the last postings before. When Richard was posting about this, he has since kind of, slowed down a little bit. But he was talking about human rights, and he was talking about, freedom of speech, freedom of movement, freedom of association. These are big issues. These are
they transcend crypto.
It transcends this little case that they're bringing about, this little civil case that they're bringing about. And with him speaking like that, and the team that he has, and you and I talked a little bit about this, but do you think that maybe they're setting this case up so that they can bring a bigger argument to the table? Because let's face it, we are going to be under a new regime, like it or not, come January here in the United States. And the United States has a lot of pull in the real world when they make decisions to do things and make things go a certain way. Now, crypto can be a little different. I'll talk about that too a little bit. And we can get into that. But there's going to be regulatory that come down and start doing things. And the arguments for DeFi and crypto, as far as human rights go, I think is our best bet, humanizing this thing and taking it away from, DeFi being the supporter of terrorist organizations, the money laundering schemes, the scams, and the terrorist supporting, funding. How do you think that they're going to try and form some narratives here that can help fight against that can help us to maybe get on off the table and at the table when it comes to what's going on. And then there's a question also here that one of the
let me answer Hex Down Under. He does not have to be present in court. You only have to be present in criminal trials. This is a civil trial or a civil case. He doesn't have to be present at all, ever. And I would not expect him to be there.
Richard does not want to come to the United States. He just
there's no reason for him to be here, so he won't be there. Like I 99.999% confidence that he won't be there. But to your question, like, I don't think you're gonna love the answer I got for you, but this is all stuff that would have to be brought up if the case continues, which is the reason why I don't think you want the answer to it. Like, if it gets bounced on jurisdiction issue, none of this shit gets brought up. But on the bright side, if it gets bounced on personal jurisdiction, he gets to bring it up in his own format, like on stream, on the internet, in the way that he wants to bring it up, without fear of repercussion, or without fear of having the SEC use it against him later on in the case. So I think that's probably the best case scenario. But if it continues on, if the SEC is allowed to try to make their case, which I really don't think they're going to be able to do, I said all along, this is a summary judgment case for the most part. I still believe that. I think that this case gets decided on summary judgment sometime at the end of 2025, 26, if it doesn't get bounced on jurisdiction. And we'll have to see how good of a case that Richard's attorneys can make on jurisdiction, because that's the only issue I think that will get it essentially gone by January, February timeframe. But other than that, it'll continue on and it'll go through discovery and blah, blah, blah. And both parties will file cross motions for summary judgment at some point, and the case will get decided on that. If that's, I'm pretty sure that Richard would want to lay out his, theories on that, on why crypto is so unique and different, and using cases about orange groves and beavers and nonsense, just don't apply anymore. I mean, I think we talked about this. I'm not sure. Like you have Howie, right? I mean, when you're talking about a case about orange groves, it was just an investment contract with somebody who's going to manage orange groves. But in order to transact business in the orange grove, you didn't need to bring them more oranges, right? You do in blockchain, right? I mean, you need the gas token in order to transact. So how can that be like the same type of security that you're looking at in Howie? Like, just because I can't take my investment contract in Howie and get more investment contracts or do another transaction using my investment contract. But if I want to do a transaction on Pulse, I need Pulse. Like, there could be an instance where somebody really doesn't give a shit whether or not their Pulse goes up in value. I mean, let's say, I think I talked about this with you before. Like, let's say I want to pay people in USDC on Pulse Chain, because I have people who are working for me, right? But I don't really care that much. I don't want to live there. Or I could do this on Ethereum too. I don't really need much. I just need enough to make those transactions happen, to send the guy 1,000 USDC a week or whatever I'm going to do. So if I have 1,000 Pulse, I'm never going to get rich off of that. I don't give a shit whether or not it goes up to 5 cents, because it really doesn't make a difference in my net income for the year, right? It doesn't make a dent, but I need that to transact. So there are people who use crypto for reasons other than trying to get rich in an ecosystem. Sometimes they just want to be able to publish a block for some reason, or show, or may have proof of a irrevocable transaction, or have a receipt online that can be viewed by anybody, anywhere, anytime. Or put something in a block, text in a block, right? Wasn't there an email in the first Bitcoin block or some nonsense, whatever it was? I wasn't around then, but there are many, many reasons to use a blockchain. There was one reason to invest in an orange grove, right? There's so many other reasons to own crypto than just simply wanting an ROI that's going to be managed by somebody else. If none of these are being managed by somebody else anyway.
And the problem is that nobody's been able to, articulate these issues in front of.
Nobody's made that case, right? Well, look who's been sued, right? Does Coinbase give a shit? No, the Coinbase is worried about like the SEC, but they're not willing to litigate or even able to litigate whether or not Solana is a security. So the SEC knows this. The SEC knows when they go after Kraken, they're doing the same thing. They know when they go after Uniswap that Uniswap isn't really able to say, Coin X isn't a security for this, that, and the other reason, and make that really work. Because what is Uniswap going to do? Do that with every coin that's listed? Is Coinbase going to do that with every coin that's listed on their exchange? This is up. It's kind of like if you want Solana to be a security, SEC, go sue Solana. Let them fight out that battle for you, and then we can figure this shit out. But make your case against the defendant that's actually there in front of the court that has an interest in the case. This is almost like suing somebody that didn't have to show up, or that I'm suing somebody else and they're just not there, but I get to say, that person did this, that, and the other thing, and they're not there to defend themselves. It's not fair and it's not just. And something's got to change at some point in the future. But I think Richard being here defending his own tokens is a whole different ball game. Yeah.
Yeah, I never understood why they went after the exchanges. It was almost like going after a guy that has a comic book store and sells trading cards and stuff out of it, like suing him because they're saying that the Lou Gehrig card is now a security and you've got it in your store. It doesn't.
Well, yeah. Let's look at it this way though. Let's say, for example, that SEC lists Solana and AVAX and then 5 other coins as securities. And Coinbase goes, shit, whatever. We go through this whole deal and the court finds that I was selling securities. Coinbase was selling securities. Well, shit, doesn't that mean that the minute the SEC gets that judgment, they can turn around and sue Solana and AVAX and say, hey, this court's already found you guys to be securities, therefore pay us a shitload of money because you're in violation of all these other securities laws. It just makes makes Coinbase's life makes SEC's life easier if they can get a judgment like that. But it's completely inherently unfair not to have the defendant that's has an interest in the case be there to show up and defend it.
Yeah, to just slap it on there as a done.
Yep.
Now, let's talk about that real quick. So in my opinion, the Coinbase and Brian Armstrong have done the best against the SEC as far as flying far enough under the radar, complying when they were supposed to, and kind of has taken the lead when it comes to setting up a PAC, setting up money to fight for crypto. And also leaning into it politically with that. What's your feelings on what the future's looking like here for us as far as, and they've also set up Base, their DeFi platform.
Yeah.
So what do you think, let's look into the future a little bit. What do you see brewing here as far as, we know the SEC is coming. We know regulation is coming. We know that we're going to end up with, and I'm just being as realistic as I can right now. We're going to probably end up with an administration that hasn't been leaning into crypto, but has been, coming up against crypto. We've got somebody like Elizabeth Warren who probably isn't going to get removed by Mr. Deaton. What do you think the best way to align is, or what's the fight got to look like for us? Because we're going to come up against it. Win, lose, or draw in this case doesn't really matter. It's the bigger, it's the bigger picture in crypto that I'm concerned about. Where are we going to be a year from now, year and a half from now, when everybody's looking at regulating?
Well, the quick answer to that is, the entire world changes overnight if Trump wins and Gensler's fired. He's not really fired. He's just removed from the SEC chair position. He can't be fired until 26, but he can be stripped of basically all his power. So that's the easy answer, but it doesn't really change the long-term prospects. What you need is some clarity, right? I mean, the SEC, one of the reasons Coinbase is suing the SEC because they won't give them clarity. How many times have they walked in and said, hey, we need to answer to this. We need to try and register. We need to try to comply with whatever it is. And the SEC's basically told them to go fuck themselves or whatever. And Coinbase is like, man, you have to come out with some kind of rule that we can follow because your existing framework doesn't work. So we need something. So I think, at least we hadn't seen congressional hearings like this before. I think we're starting to see enough people in Congress start to take this issue seriously and say, okay, enough people are talking to me about this in town halls locally. They're emailing me, they're whatever. This has become an actual issue that we're going to have to address. And I think that's the grassroots, the way that things get changed. Courts don't change anything necessarily, but Congress can.
Yes. And that's another thing. People don't realize how powerful their voice is.
Yep, absolutely.
You call into your local congressman, you call into your local politicians and start speaking your mind and saying things in a good way. Don't come at them sideways but explain who you are. I think the thing I've been saying lately is that, a story needs to be told here about DeFi because we need to change the narrative. It can't be about terrorist organizations, money laundering, drug dealers and whatnot. It has to be about the single mom that's saving up for a house, the retired 50-something-year-old that's trying to put a retirement together, generating yield off of these high yield producing products that we have here now. It's all of our stories out there building on the blockchain out of our garages, basically. That's the stories that need to be told versus the cash narrative that they're putting on DeFi is, I think, that's going to kill us versus us exposing ourselves as who we really are, and who the community involved in this really is. Because I mean, and call me stupid or call me naive, but I really think that when it comes down to it, they want to do what's best for the people. And the politicians that I have talked to at the like treasurer level, the people that I know, first of all, on both sides of the aisle, they've said that they think Gary Ginsler's gone no matter what with this new administration. And I've heard that from all of them.
But one way he's Treasury Secretary, one way he's unemployed.
Well, no, I hear that it's both sides are
saying, nice. Okay. I'll take it.
That was one of our friends that's on the liberal side of things, who's actually a crypto enthusiast or advocate. He said, no, I think he's complete. I think he's gone no matter what, no matter who wins. I think he's gone. And I was like, oh, that's good to hear. And I think he's just botched so many things up and made such a mess. I mean, that last hearing he was lambasted by everybody. There wasn't anybody that was, coddling him. It looked pretty rough on old Mr. Guinsler, which is, of course, he deserved.
Well, what does that tell you, though? It means that means the people asking the questions are eating shit from their constituents, because otherwise they wouldn't care.
Yeah, they wouldn't care. So us leaning in and calling our representatives, sending letters, more amicus briefs, defending those that need to be defended, and changing the narrative out there from crypto being this black web thing, dark web thing, and scam thing, which is going to be hard because, again, we know 90% of it is garbage, so it makes it real easy to throw the baby out with the bathwater. But we've got to scream real loud in order to get heard. And that's my goal over the next few years, is to try and see how loud we can get with the right people to start, creating a narrative that people are going to want to support versus just throw it out with the bathwater, right?
Yeah, it's going to change on its own, I think, as people start realizing who owns crypto, right? I mean, this is like criminals, right? You take a population of 100 people, 3 of them are criminals, right? And that's just the way it is. Like, they're going to, commit theft or robbery or whatever the hell they're going to do. And that's just kind of the way you look at society. Is there's going to be a certain percentage of people that do bad shit, but the vast majority of people are not criminals and they're going to do the right thing. I think you're going to see more and more people realize that as they get to know more and more people that own crypto, that really it's 97% of people that in crypto that are good people that are just trying to, make a living, make some yield, have a financial investment in something, make some money or whatever. And only the 3% are the ones that are, trying to use crypto for evil or steal stuff or whatever the case is. But I think Congress has been in front of, like, people like Elizabeth Warren have been like, oh my God, 9 out of 10 people in crypto are, evil, steely people, and, they're going to, whatever.
Did you hear her debate with Deaton?
I saw the clip of her talking crypto with Deaton. Yes.
Yeah, so she started, even she is changing her tone a little bit, because she was like the most anti-crypto person I'd ever seen. I mean, at first I saw her come on the scene, she was Miss Anti-Bank, and then as she got into the, into the banking industry, she kind of changed her spots on that one. That looked like, she was leaning into, and then she went real hard against crypto. And then even her, when she was having her debate with Deaton, I saw that she was hesitating. She was not her same self when it came to crypto. She was actually speaking to it. You know what I mean? Like before, she just belittled it, like it had no place, in existence. And
well, she talked about, how many times did she ask him something like, well, what do these people who donated, whatever, $100 million to your campaign expect as a, hey, Elizabeth, that's the point. People are donating money from, to his campaign. Why? Because they're interested in this. Like they're anti you, not, and
do we need to look at who's donating to you? Like, let's take a look at that,
Yeah, maybe these people have more power.
That's a horrible argument for any politician to make. Like, right. You might want to just shut up and not say that, because you guys all have skeletons in your closet, and I'd much rather see, somebody who has donations from real people, from, individuals, and, smaller donations from folks, wanting to lean in. And, and that's why we supported some of the politicians that we have here on the channel, and they've won, and they've become advocates and friends of us. And they actually listen to what we have to say, and there's something to be said about that. When you find somebody in politics who you can relate with, who understands, who is trying to make, trying to be a civil servant. I mean, let's face it. There's the government, the scary government that everybody, has been talking about since Reagan said, hey, I'm from the government. I'm here to help. Ever since he said that, there's been this question of civil servants. And, let's face it, there are people out there that are trying to do better, to make things better, to try and, make our government work for us. Like, I mean, if you or I was to go into it, that's what we try and do, and of course, money has corrupted our civil servants. And at the higher levels, of course, it gets worse and worse as it goes up. But I mean, we've seen local people do shitty stuff too for money and whatnot. And, and that's the big problem. They need to take money out of politics and, and let the people that want to go out there and help, be the ones who are out there helping. And again, and us as citizens, not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, meaning our regulatory, our safety, our security, our infrastructure. And again, like you, I'm for, small G government, and, let's make it do the things that it's supposed to do, that it's good at, and then let everything else be taken care of by, capitalism and, the private sector and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the real problem is that there's no accountability in government anymore. I think if we just simply brought back some accountability in government, we would see a giant change in how much our government serve the people rather than serving themselves. But nobody, no matter what you do, you can't lose your freaking job. You just typically get promoted. If anybody,
if you've done something,
finds out who you are.
Yeah, if you've done something horrendous enough, you get hired in the private sector to go make lots of money. Like,
where do you think Gary Gensler's going?
When, you know it.
Yeah, he's going to go to work
for some crypto firm or something, probably.
Absolutely.
Making buku bucks. That's what they all do. I mean, every congressman or senator that has left their tenure earlier than they should have, they're all working for some big company making big money.
Or a giant lobbying firm or something
firm or something where the money's flowing.
But we have I mean, you live in California, I live in Arizona. We're so disconnected from DC that it's an entirely other country, and, we have no say in, what our federal representatives, senators and Congress people do or say or whatever. We, at least with local politics, if my local representative in the Arizona State Congress, my local congressman does something fucking stupid, I can probably go hang out outside his office and have a conversation with him, or knock on that door or whatever. What the hell am I supposed to do with, somebody whose office is 3,000 miles away?
Yeah. No, it's accountability is necessary. I mean, like, think about it. When I went into the Marine Corps, they owned my ass. They owned everything about me. Like, I couldn't drive a motorcycle without, them allowing me to, and me wearing the proper gear. And
same Navy. So same exact thing. Yeah.
Yeah. They own you. So when you're a government employee, I think, they should treat you the same way. Like, hey, this is who you are. This is what you've got to do. This is, you're not going to take advantage of your civil service and make yourself wealthy. Like all of this trading that they all do because of the information that they get, it's like, if you want to become a civil servant at that level, then you've got to, there's some transparencies that have to be had here. And we need to take the money out of it and make sure that none of you guys are, if you really want to serve the people, then serve the people and show us that that's what you want to do, is serve the people. And
there really needs to be, when I say accountability, I don't mean like necessarily just being fired, but if you're breaking laws, working for the government, you should spend some time in prison. You really should. So, I don't want to see you just get fired and get hired by somebody else. I want to see you, lose your job and go to prison and become an example and have your face plastered on the fucking internet for all of time, for having done bad shit to the people who were paying your salary.
Yeah. And the problem is that there is no real rules, or the ethics rules are so weak. And so
completely. Yes, completely.
They don't hold people accountable to even these most of these ethics hearings that they have are just theater and circus acts. And
don't we have
government has done that so that they have holes to make to make their ill-gotten gains.
I mean, is Menendez still in office in the Senate? I mean, guy who's found the gold bars in his fucking house or something.
I think he's gone. Yeah, I think he's Bob, right? Bob Menendez.
Menendez? But I'm not sure he left right away. Like, if he did. So.
No, and
I think he was still voting on shit well after they found that crap in his house.
And he was Mr. He chastised everybody for that stuff. Oh, yes, these people. But hey, the narrative needs to be changed about crypto. We need to get in front of it. I think now that the SEC has been weakened, that now is like the iron is hot for all of us to get out there and start making noise. It's obvious the noise that's already been made is landing where it's supposed to, because they are changing their tune. And the fact that they're even talking about it during this election is, I think it's a big deal.
I think that's a huge portion. Like, if they realize that they're going to alienate voter base that's in the 100,000s, they don't really care. They're going to alienate a voter base that's in the millions, they start to care. If they're going to alienate a voter base that's in 20 to 30 to 40 to 50 millions, then it really starts to matter. And now, and I think that's the reason why you're starting to see this stuff with all, who owns crypto? Like, 25% of American households have owned, some kind of crypto. And people are like, oh shit, we better not completely alienate all these people.
Well, yeah. And don't forget that, there's boomer and Xer moms, dads, grandfathers, mothers, fathers that have kids, nephews, cousins, aunts, nieces that all have crypto. So it's touching their life in some way. Like they know everybody in the family knows that one person that's doing crypto in their family, right? And
starting to get that way for sure. Yeah,
it is getting that way. So it really touches a lot more than just our small community, because crypto is a small community. And DeFi is even smaller, and the Hexagon DeFi is even smaller than that. So I'm
not sure that crypto is that small. I'm sure, but it's a whole bunch of individualized communities, like you just said. Like the Hexagon community is one community, but there's all these other communities out there that all own crypto. And that's why I said a long time ago, we got to kind of band together for a little while, and just no matter how much we hate the other coin or whatever, or think you're stupid or getting scammed or whatever, I don't give a shit. But I just want to see us. Let's stick together till we win, and then we can go fight each other again. Like freaking Celtic tribes, like in the 1500s or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, check it out, bro. Like no matter, like if you have a football or a baseball or a soccer team or whatever, that you live and die by that, and I'm not saying that it's that it's as serious as all this stuff. But when you have a team that you're rooting for and there's money involved, extreme wealth involved, then it becomes a little more personal than even that. So you have your team you're rooting for, and you have monetary value invested in it. And that makes it a lot more hypersensitive to, criticism or, something else coming in and taking its place or being better than it, or, you know what I mean? So I think that's probably where our big problems in crypto come from, is that, we've got a little more at stake here.
But if you take that sports analogy, like, if the government said, we're going to shut down your favorite football team, I don't care who it is. I mean, I don't, you're Southern California, like you're a Charger fan or what are you like out there? I'll just use the Arizona Cardinals. That's because I live here.
I'm a Raider fan, unfortunately.
If the government came out and said, we're going to shut down, we're going to shut down the Arizona Cardinals, like everybody else, all the other teams are like, yay. I'm like, no, dipshits, they're coming after your fucking team next. Like, you got to band together and just all say, hey, government, no, you have to stop. You have to push back and say, it's okay because it's happening to this community. No, it's not. It's not okay because it's happening to that community. It's all of us that are going to be affected. And if you can't fight back all at once, you're going to be fighting each one individually and just hoping you're the last guy to get butt fucked.
Yeah, maybe we'll be the last one standing, and I can get mine before it's over with, and but we need to all start being hyper vigilant to all of this. It's changing. Our fight isn't, within crypto anymore, trying to get good cryptos, or trying to get DeFi to exist. DeFi exists, right. Good cryptos exist. Forever. And now we need to save them. We need to make sure that they don't get litigated and controlled out of existence for us. And I mean, there's always the exception, which. Here's something else that, we kind of put on the table real quick. I don't know how much time you got left. I know we've been on for an hour. But the rest of the world, there are places around the world that are treating crypto kindly, that are treating people with crypto kindly.
Absolutely.
And inviting you to their country with open arms, to come do business there, to come live there, reside there, bring your crypto. We're friendly. And now there are places around the world that are doing that, and a lot of big bag holders have already gone on and done that and offshored their money outside the U.S. So the U.S. is losing. So not only are they losing high value citizens within the crypto community, but they're losing innovation. They're losing ground to other countries. They're getting behind the gun on regulatory and taking this seriously. So, I mean, I'm a dyed-in-the-wool, diehard, American. Family half Indian, so not only am I American to the core, but this place here is very important to me. Living here on this dirt, um, but if it comes to a point where I can no longer survive here as somebody who is completely 100% invested in the crypto space and working in the crypto space and making my living in the crypto space. If they're not going to treat me with respect and dignity and allow me a place to live and survive, then I've got to move on,
I agree with you 100%. I mean, I look at this thing, you and I grew up in the age where we didn't have an internet, right? So, or cell phones or pagers or whatever. Imagine if the US government had took their big fat thumb and stuck it on the scale when, the internet first came out and said, the internet's only used to send messages between criminals. So we need to shut down all these ISPs or whatever, or these are the only ISPs that are allowed to exist, the ones that are, heavily regulated by the government. We would be in a much different world today if you just couldn't put up your own webpage without government approval, Like, where the hell would we be? Would we have any e-commerce at this point? Would we have, any streaming services? Would we have anything? Would you and I be talking right now? Probably not. If and other countries said, hey, come over here and build this World Wide Web, and you can build Web 2 out on us, over here in the safety of our, confines of our country. We would have lost every web developer ever out of this country over to somewhere else. And we're doing the same thing, and we're not seeing it here. I think maybe finally politicians are starting to see that this is a destructive type policy, is going after everybody, in this particular way.
And I think it has to do with them not understanding the technologies fully. All of their reactions have obviously been fear-based. They think that these things are hurting people, which, again, I don't hold it against them, because 90% of the stuff that's out there, 99% of the stuff that's out there is garbage.
Agreed.
So they've never looked into real technologies. They've never looked into, real DeFi. They've never looked into what that means to the world and what that means to people and products and innovation. And I think that they're living in fear, and they're trying to cover their own asses so they don't get in trouble with it. Because let's face it, if you were, you had a job at the SEC and you didn't know anything much about crypto, and they said, hey, here's, 10,000 cryptos. We got to figure out what we're going to do with all these. 99% of them are scams. Go out there and find your scams and go prosecute them, and we'll worry about regulating them later. Right now, they're just going to exist under all the other laws that are out there. And that's basically what's been done. And I don't blame those people for just doing their job and getting stuck into that. I do blame the leadership for not going, hey, we need to take a better look at this. But I also blame us for not making this place look right. Let's face it, the cypherpunks, the crypto peeps have done more harm to this experiment than good. They've run scam after scam after scam. They've promoted bullshit after bullshit after bullshit. They've not been above ground when it comes to promoting good things versus their thing. I mean, let's face it. Let's look at all the maxis. I mean, this is the Hexicans can look at this and see this for what it is. All the maxis came after the Hexicans, Richard, and Hex, because they didn't want it to replace their beloved Bitcoin, because it does. It's better than Bitcoin. Richard beat Satoshi at building a better crypto, and they didn't like it. So they went after him versus trying to understand and trying to learn and trying to say, okay, crypto is advancing. This was V1. Now we have V2 and V3 coming. So instead of doing the right thing, they did the wrong thing. And
right.
now
it's like propeller maxis going up against, like, basically telling everybody jet engines are stupid and you shouldn't buy them.
Exactly.
Right. I mean,
Exactly.
instead of figuring out a way to live together, to work together, to maybe utilize some of the new tech to improve your tech. Do we still have prop planes? Absolutely. Do we have jet engines? Absolutely. I mean, do both of them have uses? Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's no reason why we can't peacefully coexist. You just have to find. Yeah, absolutely. So there's no reason to say your thing is stupid, my thing's awesome.
I mean, we have gold and we have spiders, right? I mean, we have different financial tools in the world to operate and function by, and gold is a certain thing. It does a certain thing. It acts a certain way. That's what it is. A spider acts and does a certain thing in a different way for the investors. So all
how many tools do you have in your toolbox? You got more than one screwdriver, right?
Exactly. I got a whole bunch of them, the same ones that I don't use, And,
right, exactly, yeah.
So
it's the same thing. Everything does something different.
Yeah, but the greed set into crypto too.
Completely, yeah.
Because of what they did, they propped up Bitcoin as long as they could. They tried to bolt products onto Bitcoin that would try and improve it. They made their Rube Goldberg machine out of it, and then they sold it to BlackRock. They literally sold it to BlackRock. The maxis, I'm telling all of you people out there, the maxis sold you the fuck out to BlackRock. They're the ones that had the Bitcoin, guys. The maxis had the Bitcoin that BlackRock has. That wasn't all of you guys selling little bits of Bitcoin to BlackRock. That's not how it went down. Somewhere, somehow, big bags sold billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin to those guys. That's your people that are screaming and yelling that we're the scammers, that we're the ones hurting crypto and DeFi and all that. Yeah. Don't ever forget that. They sold you down the river. They sold you down the fucking river. Sorry.
Oh, you're fine. I love passionate RG. That's awesome, man.
Well, and the space, has created this mess, has created this dysfunction, has created this maximalism, and it's all due to greed. Because
I kind of wish, like, instead of turning on each other, we should all just agree to turn on the scammers. Like, instead of the SEC trying to regulate, everything as a security, they should go after, maybe the DOJ should go after scammers. Government has a use case and they're not using it. They have a misuse case at the moment, but there's plenty of bad actors that the DOJ could go after, for scamming people, rug pulling people, whatever. But no, now we have the SEC making headlines for, taking scalps of essentially good actors. It doesn't make any sense. None of this makes any sense.
Yeah, it doesn't. And the bad actor thing, I also have a problem with people who are trying to innovate, being called scammers. It's gotten so, like, everybody just calls everybody a scammer now, and it's going to stifle innovation. It's not true. Like, a lot of people in the pulse chain community who have built products may not have, done them right or fixed everything, or they got bugs, and that's what innovation is. That's what, learning is.
Trial and
that's
error,
what
baby.
building, trial and error, all that kind of stuff. Now, the disclaimer is, and what I say is that if you're playing with these things as an investment tool, if you're getting in on cutting edge DeFi products in the beginning stages of them, and investing in them, that's on you. You shouldn't be just, throwing yourself into everything that's out there and just, picking everything up. Now, nothing wrong with that. Some people do very well with that, but you could get yourself into, trouble if these things don't work, or if they have to come up with a new, 2.0 or whatever.
Is it any different, though, than a VC firm investing in 100 different startups and 95 of them go bad? You know, 95 of them never go anywhere. It's the same exact thing, but somehow we need to be protected from this shit. But screw you, government. Like, you know what? I want to see the same rules apply to VC firms then, you know?
They're more concerned about the control of the value, I think.
Yeah, that's it right there. That's the primary driver.
Yeah, the control of the value. They want to know where that value is going and if it's coming to them somehow. And I don't mean like coming to them in their pockets. I mean coming to them in the direction that they want it to flow, you know, through the government, through their agency.
The whole idea behind creating choke points, like, you know, we're only going to license these exchanges where you can on off ramp.
Yes,
that's it right there. Because that way they get reporting from them and they can see exactly how much you brought in, brought out, and they can calculate your taxes for you. But I mean, if I move something from one chain to another, and then, you know, and then pay for a good or service in that crypto, they don't know, and I'm not paying taxes on it. So that's a threat, right? So that's about as simple as it gets.
Yeah, but it needs to be treated. It needs to be treated as cash. You know, I think it needs to be treated with that kind of right. Like, you have the right to have cash, you know?
Well, then the IRS needs to reclassify it, because I think it's still classified as property under IRS rules, right?
Yeah. Well, maybe even
currency.
But maybe it's even better as a property, right? Because then that way it can be considered a commodity, and then that way it would be out of the securities realm.
I would like that. Yeah. I mean, I know I'm going there with you. That's for sure.
I'd like to. I think if we just got rid of the accredited investor deal, then that would solve all of our problems.
It does solve. It solves a huge amount of problems. Absolutely.
It's like,
because then all this shit is exempt from SEC registration and sales, right?
Yeah.
If you don't have to worry about selling to accredited investors, then who cares? Who gives a shit who you sell to?
Yes, you don't have to call anything a security.
Yep.
And to be honest, I don't know how
unless
much
you want to get listed on the NASDAQ.
Yeah, then okay, then in that case, then, you know, you have your investment products that are not listed, and you have your investment products that are listed, and you can go and list the products that you'd like, you know, and go through the ringer that way. If not, then you're just a commodity, you know. I don't know what the answer is going to be.
Well, I think crypto, Robert Keller in the chat there brings up the point that we all seem to miss somehow, right? I don't think we miss it. We just don't think about it nonstop because we're in the United States. It's like the United States thinks it has jurisdiction over the entire world. And really we just don't, when we shouldn't. There's no reason why the SEC should have jurisdiction over something that's not here. You know, the SEC has no jurisdiction over something that's listed on the Japanese stock market or the Korean stock market. You know, there's no reason why the SEC should have jurisdiction over every crypto just because some Americans bought it.
Yeah.
You know?
No, and that's the thing. It's like, the problem is that when they do lean, usually now with crypto, it seems to have been a little bit. I think the world's kind of taken a step back, because usually so the U.S. goes, the world goes. Like, you know, if the U.S. says, hey, this is not good, or that's not good, or we're leaning this, you know, most of the world follows the U.S. But I haven't seen that so much with crypto. You know, like a lot of especially the EU and the
Middle East for sure.
Middle East have like said, and of course, you know, China and South Korea and whatnot, they've said, no, we're going to do our thing here. We're going to let these companies go and do their thing, blah, blah, blah. And well, China's been kind of like flip-flop.
Yeah. Who the hell knows what they're doing anyway?
Who knows what they're doing anyway? Yeah. But the rest of the world has like kind of like maybe not taken a cue from the United States. And hopefully that helps us to, you know, say, hey, it's time to shit or get off the pot. You know, what are you guys going to do? So
yep.
Maybe that might be. I don't know. I've noticed that where crypto is that thing that may be changing how the world is viewing what the U.S. is doing.
It would be nice, wouldn't it, to be part of that revolution? I think that'd be fantastic.
Well, either way, we're in a revolution here. Either way, you know, and it's about to get a lot more heated. You know, I've been around crypto since 2014, and well, I was exposed to it in early 2009, 2010. I thought it was just glorified PayPal, whatever. But fast forward to 2014, I seen like there was a whole different landscape back then. It was really the wild, wild west. It was, you didn't know how to get your cryptos out. There weren't some of these coins didn't have wallets. I remember the first card. You had to buy Bitcoin, and you had to send this Bitcoin to these people, and they gave you a bank account, and then this bank account, supposedly had the dollars in it, and then you can go and use this card that didn't work everywhere, and it was shoddy, man. It was really shoddy, but it was cool. It was like, I just turned this Bitcoin into gasoline, and that was in 2015.
You sound like somebody who had like when I tell people I had my first email was AOL, That's how old you sound.
Remember we used to collect the discs, like you'd get the discs so you could have some free internet for a little bit, and
when you signed onto the internet, it screamed at you like
what was it? CompuServe was one of those platforms and shit. Yeah, it was. But things have changed a lot since then. Just like crypto has changed a lot, and
we're just moving faster now than we did in any other tech. Yeah. The amount of the speed that's involved in the changing of tech is moving faster than the internet, mobile phones, anything. It's just crazy, and that's why we're picking up speed, and eventually we're going to become the unstoppable force.
I think so. Because of the power behind the tech. Look at all the DeFi protocols that are out there now, the lending protocols, the buy and burn protocols, the decentralized exchanges. These things are all extremely innovative. Like, why even worry about regulating an exchange when you can say, fuck it, we don't need an exchange. We have decentralized exchanges. Why would you even use a middleman? Why would I go over here when over here it's just as, and you can do things in a DEX like, limit liquidity providers, or I don't know. There's things that you can do to kind of try and mitigate some of the issues that they have with rug pulls and all that kind of stuff,
Sure.
Or at least put warnings out like, hey, this crypto, 99.99% of it is one wallet has placed the liquidity in here or whatever, so, there's things you can do to help protect. Like, you don't need to throw the baby out, but at least, put those protections in that make politicians feel good. And that was the one thing when I was talking to my friend, Zach Conine, the treasurer of Nevada. He said that, he said, look, RG, he said, the thing that we want to do is if we want to put our name on something, we just don't want people to get hurt. And if there's enough things in place that people don't get hurt, we don't want to, stifle innovation. We don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. We just want things to work and for people to feel protected, or that we've done our job trying to protect them. And I thought that was a sincere answer when he was talking to me about it, real human to human, sitting there, eye to eye conversation, and they really want this technology to work, but they also, because their asses are on the line. Like, if they lean into something and something screws people, then, hey, your next election's looking pretty bad, bro. You're going to be the guy that, told everybody or let everybody get involved in the scam crypto that's out there, so
I can appreciate that. I can appreciate that sentiment, and I'm fine with that. And I think if we design the regulatory system to be a set of guardrails rather than a series of DUI stops every freaking 100 yards,
guardrails and road dots. That's what you need. You need tracks to run on. You need guidelines, and you need some safeguards in place.
But just let people do their thing, but within those parameters.
Yeah, and hopefully it's going to fall somewhere there. I don't know. Again, when don't you
think it has to eventually? Like, even if we get it wrong in the beginning, it'll eventually settle out there in some way. whether or not
it has been wrong for a while now.
It has been, but other countries are getting it right, which is going to force the U.S. to take another look at this, which I think is going to be a good thing. That we may have to change in order to conform with the rest of the world, rather than the rest of the world typically conforming with whatever the USA does.
And I think that's I think that's the sentiment I was trying to put out there a minute ago, was that I think the rest of the world has kind of made their decision and they're not looking for the US for guidance on this.
Right.
They've already said, because the invitations that I've had to come to other countries, for dual citizenship or just residency or whatever, have been very open, very, what do you call it? They've really bent over backwards to say, hey, we want you to come here, and this is what you can do here. This is how you can live here. And, and I've went and visited most of those places. And to be honest, I'm not, I'm not disheartened to say, well, if I got to go, then I can go here or go there, where I'm treated better. My money's treated better, and my, business and my future opportunities are treated better and given more chance of coming to fruition. So, I'm not against that. And I like the fact that the world is moving that way. And that they're not taking cues from the US at this point. So hopefully the US gets off of its ass and gets to doing the work that needs to be done, to actually promote, better DeFi protocols, and the US becoming a leader in DeFi.
Yeah. And one of the things I'd love to see is, I would love to see this case get resolved, simply because, one of the best people that has ever been able to explain DeFi, explain crypto, explain safety, how to, Richard is such a valuable resource for all of this, that he could, if you had a congressional hearing with Richard, they'd all come out like, 10 IQ points smarter, than they are. Like,
that's exactly what needs to be done.
He's the person that we need at this point in time, and he's being kind of stifled right now, and that really just blows. It blows for everybody. Anybody who wants to learn about the space, anybody who wants to understand the space better. It just feels like we're, our quarterback's on injured reserve right now, and it sucks.
Yeah, and you know what? For people in the audience, like, if you guys don't know who Richard Hart is, which probably 90% of you do, but for those of you who don't, or for those of you who do know who he is and haven't seen like his early videos, go to his YouTube channel and watch his early videos and watch how he explains what DeFi and Hex is, and how he's felt about all of us. Because I think that's one of the things that has been missing here, is Richard's character.
Definitely.
We know when Richard went out off the scene, that there was a certain persona that he was putting out there. Although that persona is an alter ego of his, it's not who Richard is at the core. He may come across as flippant. He may come across as grandiose, or even, odd and vulgar and all this in a way, but that's just his freedom of expression. He's just expressing himself. He's just, cutting loose and trying to grab clicks and views and people to take a look at him, because he said it from the beginning. If you watch his old streams, he says, I'm going to try and help you guys. I'm going to try and protect you from all the bullshit that's out there. I'm going to try and show you how crypto can be a good place. And I care about you guys. And if you watch the streams that he did with us, and if you go to early Discourse Syndicate days and see his interaction with us, the community, see how he spoke with us, see how he was coming from the heart, really cared about this community because we cared about what he was doing, then you'll see a different person than what's being portrayed out there in the crypto space and in the mainstream crypto media space, whatever. You'll see a different person. Richard truly does care about each and every one of you in a way that he wants to build things that are going to help you. He's going to put out information that's going to help you to not get ripped off, scammed, or destroyed in this market. And I think that's one thing that's been lost, that people don't understand his real character. And for some of you who haven't been around for a long time and all you saw was the twerking Richard in the Gucci suits, then you need to go back and see the real Richard that we all got to know and understand and get behind. I'm not here still after all these years because Richard is some kind of fucking dating expert or, mansplainer or whatever, red pillar guy. I'm here because Richard cares. He cares about the crypto space. He cares about innovating it. He cares about bringing good products to market and changing the world financially. And I wanted to get behind that and be part of that. And like you said, with him being benched, it's been extremely hard to be out here on our own with a few tweets every now and then from him. I mean, he really taught me. I mean, I've learned a lot in the crypto space through being involved and building my own products and this and that and the other for all these years. But Richard truly was the person that taught me the most about the crypto space and what it should look like and how it should be. So if you go back and look at him.
Yeah, I found Richard in late 20. So Hex had already launched, Hex had already done, whatever. It was still, I think it was just under a penny when I first got into it in 21, or maybe it was a few cents when I first got into it in 21. But I missed, I missed his really early stuff. But when I started watching a bunch of stuff about crypto, because I just learned what smart contracts were in like late 20, like November, December, whatever time frame. But I realized that like a lot of people didn't come across correct to me. They didn't come across right to me. I found some Richard videos and I realized that this guy actually knew what he was talking about. And Hex was the first thing that I really bought in 21 because A, it was a finished product and everybody else was promising shit that may or may not ever show up. And B, I really liked what he had to say. So I became a believer right early on. Fortunately, it was a few months right before the sacrifice, so I was able to get into Pulse Chain early. Don't regret that for a second. I still believe in Pulse Chain. Like, this is going to really. I really believe that we're in the right spot. But I'm just so disappointed that we're missing that Richard who taught me as much stuff as. I credit him for 98% of my crypto knowledge came through Richard, how to stay safe, how to, what DeFi is, not your keys, not your coins, all that stuff that's so critical. And, it's kindergarten crypto, but it's so critical for you to understand. It's the 4 rules of gun safety, right? You have to know them and you have to be able to recite them by heart and live them every single day, or you're going to get screwed. But he's the guy who taught me. And I really wish he could be out here teaching more people.
Yeah, and that's why I'm excited for him and his team, his Murderers Row lawyer team, to be out there and actually speaking to judges and the SEC. I hope that they do get a chance to speak. I hope that they do get a chance to put some stuff in the record because that's going to be important. Because I think that they are in the right headspace. I think that they're in the right. They're framing this right, and I think that they may be using this to do so.
They will absolutely get their point across.
Yeah, and I hope that that's in the record, that we can pull that out and see some of the arguments, and maybe these arguments can be used in the future. And when it comes to sitting in front of Congress again, stating some of the things that Richard has said. And hopefully they'll listen, because he makes a lot of good, valid points when you go and you look at his old Twitter posts about the rights that blockchain gives to us and that we should have just by our human rights they're written in our U.S. Constitution, that we should have the right to blockchain, that they're overstepping by regulating the way they are.
Absolutely.
And so hopefully that gets in the docket, and that is stuff that we can pull out and use later down the road, whether it's for, political reasons or legal reasons or helping to mitigate an issue or something. Hopefully they get enough good information in that docket that we'll have it, for time immemorial, right? What is that? How do you say that?
Yep. And there's some hope for the future too. Like, I just started reading a book, like a couple of chapters into it, from Neil Gorsuch, Supreme Court Justice. We put out a book called Overruled a little bit ago. And it talks about law from a human story perspective. One of the first stories he gets into really quickly is it's a fisherman who's out catching fish, and he gets his boat boarded, and they catch these grouper who are, some of them are under 20 inches, and they're required to keep, to segregate these things and have them recounted when he gets into port. So he pulls back into port a couple days later. There were 72 fish that were undersized. Now there's 69 because the guy who measured it, measured them again, and either the fish got larger or smaller because of heat or cold or whatever. Stuff happens. None of them were under 18.75 inches. None of them at all. And then so they find him and he goes on his way. And then years later, he has agents knocking on his door. And they come and arrest him. By this time, by the way, the regulation has changed. So now you can have 18-inch grouper instead of 20-inch grouper. It was the small size. But now every single one of them would have been legal. But he winds up going to court for this because under Sarbanes-Oxley, if you can believe it, this is the most insane thing. I mean, this is a financial regulatory thing. And for something regarding destruction of evidence and whatever the hell else. So they charge him under this thing, which makes no sense whatsoever. And Justice Gorsuch does a really good job of explaining, the guy went to prison for a year under this stupid thing, under an act that has nothing to do with fishing and never was intended to be, stretched as far as it is. This is no different than Howey being stretched to cover crypto.
Yes.
Yeah.
So and that's what I've been looking at is how far they're stretching Howey now. It's with the DeFi protocols that are coming into play, the stretching of Howey is just that's got to go away at some point.
Right. And this is the point though, that if this is the way our current Supreme Court justices are thinking, this is a good sign for us long term. When the first crypto case hits the Supreme Court, are they going to look favorably on the SEC going, oh shit, we got jurisdiction over everything? Or are they going to be like, I'm not really sure that you can stretch this case as far as you want to, because this is way outside of what the scope of whatever Congress intended originally. So
we've got to have our fishermen sitting there is my call to action is it can't be a CZ or an F or a Sam Bankman-Fried that's pulled in.
Oh God, no. Yeah. No,
it's got to be our fishermen. It's got to be the weakest, the meekest of us that have attempted to do no wrong. But that's who needs to be put in front of these people.
That's exactly right.
And I have an instance like that. So I applied for permits and stuff for a build in my backyard, and it was in December of a certain year. And then come time for the finalization of my all my plans and everything, getting the final on my build, they came over and said, hey, you've got to put an extra fence up here because your neighbors didn't get a permit, and they built their ground up a certain height, and you have to have a certain amount of height to get over this and that and the other. And come to find out that the year, so this is, because I did it the earlier, because I did it the year before in December, that law no longer applied, that regulation no longer applied. But because my permit was from that date, I still had to comply, even though that you didn't have to comply with that regulation,
Unreal.
Anymore. But because my permit was scheduled back then, and the funniest thing is that this extra piece of fence that I had to pay an ungodly amount of money for to have built, was to block people from coming from my neighbor's yard into my yard and drowning in my swimming pool.
Oh, for Christ's sake.
He has a swimming pool in his backyard. So I was like, this is just ridiculous. So yeah, that's the kind of stuff that we have to deal with. And like you said, you never know what old weird law or thing they're going to pull out to try and, litigate against us. There's some
Absolutely.
weird stuff in the books, man. Like you just said, that thing that they used to get those people with. It's
a cool book. Read it if you get a chance.
Yeah, I'll check it out. I'm there's a lot of good political books coming out right now. I'm gonna stick them on my Audible and start listening to them, because we're in a very interesting time. When I think that when things are heightened, when things are the worst, when things look like they're really bad, this is when stuff good happens. Like, this is when things change. This is when things go for the better, when people have had enough of, division and problems and issues and whatnot. I think that right now is going to be very interesting to see where our whole world goes over the next, decade. I think we're in for some 21st century changes finally.
Yeah. Well, what's the average age in Congress? I think that's that's the answer to our problem right there, right?
But there's one thing, I hear you with that, but there's also something that's to be said about, I think it more so than a time limit, and of course real voting would fix this, but you have people that get into government that do it as a career that do a good job. And those people, you don't necessarily want to get rid of your smartest, your best, your most tactical, you know what I mean? I mean,
yeah, I'm just talking about a variety standpoint.
Out, but if you've got good people that have been in there for a long time and they're not necessarily doing wrong, just because they've been there. I'm a little mixed about term limits, because I was all for it for a long time. Like, get these guys in and out. And then I started looking at some of the people that are I was trying to find, in a sea of all politicians are bad, I was trying to find good ones. Like, there's no way that they're all bad, right? There's got to be good people in there doing working their life's work as a servant, blah, blah, blah. And I just started to find and dig a couple, there are not very many of them, but I went and dug out a couple of them that I liked and saw what they had done. And I'm like, wow, it'd been a shame to have, gotten rid of that person in history, after 4 years. And
sure. I mean, does your town have a term limits for mayor? Somebody else steps up and does a good job, and somebody else after them is going to step up and do a good job, and somebody else after them. And we have a country of 340 million people. I'm sure we can replace, even if we kick a couple of good ones out, are we at a net loss on this? I mean, or are we just going to replace some of the bad ones with good ones and the good ones with bad ones for a while? I don't know. I'm kind of mixed on the whole thing too, but I just think that, if we have essentially octogenarians running running who sees what on the Congress floor and just decide who to vote on, what issues to vote on, or what bills to vote on, or whatever, maybe we're not doing ourselves any favors. Maybe we definitely
need to we need to change the demographic. The demographic has to change.
We do. Yes.
The boomers have got to go. I hate to say that, but their mentality, their outlook on the world and the future is too slow, too rickety, too vested in the past to move us forward. I think
it's very stuck in the 80s and 90s when
very stuck.
When the
like
world
that's
was
as far as they've ever gotten.
White. Yeah.
And the world has changed and morphed and become so much more than they're capable of understanding, i.e. crypto. Like, they don't get it. They literally don't get it. And, and people of my age and our age, the X generation, we get it to an extent, and we're willing to learn from the younger generations what it is that we need to do. I think that that's one thing that our generation has that the boomer generation never did. They never gave us credit for helping them build the future. Like, they've always taken it on themselves to be the ones to create the future, it seems. And they've lost touch. And I think that the X generation has the ability to look into the past and go, okay, we're not going to do that shit anymore, but we're not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Now let's look to the younger generations who understand technology, who understand where the world needs to go, who want bright futures. Let's see what they want us to do. Let's see how we could all work together, take our wisdom and knowledge, take their innovation and excitement and youth, and put them together and build a better place. And I think that's what needs to happen as far as politics go. But hey, man, I know you got to get going. I think there's some sports on that we both need to watch.
Oh yeah, I got a hockey game coming up with my former team now that lives in Utah. This is bullshit. My Arizona Coyotes moved to Utah, so now I got to follow that team because I still love all the damn players. I've been watching those players for years, and I still love a lot of them. So I'm going to go support that team for now. So
cool. Who's that team?
They're the Utah Hockey Club because they haven't decided on a name yet. I don't know why. I don't know how long that fucking takes, but come on, guys.
Right on. Well, real quick, everybody, we need to see the RSVPs and seminar numbers to get the overflow for the courtroom.
Yeah, please let me
file that.
I'm passing along this information as much as possible to Richard's counsel. So please go to SJ's page, sign up on the Pulse Chain Tour site. If you're gonna be there, RSVP. If you're not gonna be there, please don't. Otherwise, we're gonna look like giant jackasses when we have 400 people RSVP'd and 11 people show up to the courthouse. And then they've requested an extra room and whatever the hell else, and we're gonna look like morons. So let's please avoid that. We want to be professional. We want to show up. We want to show up good, and let the judge know. I'm going to tell you right now, if we pack that courtroom, the judge is going to know exactly why. Nobody's showing up to support the SEC. Nobody. No. The judge is going to know exactly that we're there for a reason. 99.9% of the hearings that she ever does, motion dismiss hearings, are between couple of attorneys and the judge and the court reporter. Nobody else is in that room. You show up, we make a statement. We tell that court, hey, this case is different than other cases. So let's do that. Right.
You heard it, guys. You heard it. So if you're going to go, please go in an RSVP so that we know that you're going to be there so that we can make sure it's done. If you're not going to go, please make sure your name is not on the list or take it off if you couldn't make it to the next date.
I think it's set for 2:00 in the afternoon. It's only going to go till 4:30, 5 o'clock.
So that's the other answer. Somebody had asked that question earlier. So it's only going to go a couple hours, an hour and a half. So that should be the time frame of it.
Yeah, you should see about an hour given to each side typically. And then if the court has any additional questions, they'll get to it.
Nice. Right on, right on. Well, anything else you want to close out with, bud?
No, I just enjoyed it. Thank you very much. I can't believe the time went by that fast. That's awesome. Looking forward to seeing you in person again. And
yeah, we're gonna hang out. If you can, just sit in the green room just for a second, and I'll let you get to your game.
Sure.
Right on. All right, everybody. Thanks, bud. We'll definitely see you in New York. All right, everybody. Thanks for coming. If you guys haven't followed Nuclear Herbs, he's on Twitter. We'll get his link in the descriptions there. He's the man with his finger on the pulse of what's going on legally with the court cases. And if you want to go in and read his Twitter, some of the things that he's put in there, stuff that he's explained on the docket, all very, very good stuff. And he's been out there doing some streams. So check him out. Appreciated him coming on. We'll see you guys all on Friday for the effing hangout. Appreciate you. Like I said, get in there, make sure you get yourself RSVP'd for the event if you're going to be there. If not, please don't. And then also, there's also tickets for the 369 event going to Vegas. Those are, if you use RG3, get you a discount for the next couple months. All right, everybody. Thanks for coming. We'll see you on Friday for the effing hangout. Take care, Hexkins.
Why is Hex better than Bitcoin? Well, first of all, it's the fundamentals of the code. The fundamentals of the code are better than Bitcoin's fundamentals. The inflation model is better than Bitcoin's inflation model. The staking feature is better than a mining feature. It's new tech versus old tech. It's decentralized versus centralized. Yes, all of those things